don't know what I just did, but it seemed like it worked. I was like grayed out for a bit and just looked all blurry, and I'm not even sure I was visible. So I guess might be a little patchy on the internet tonight, but we're gonna hopefully be okay. Let me just lean this up against this object here. There we go. Okay, so first, I know I got boring background going on. I'm still in the middle of closing on a house, so soon my yoga space will be transitioned into another space, so it'll be a little bit more exciting in the background. Not that that's probably why you tune in, but I like to have the beautiful background for myself and for you guys too. So I did have a request tonight to just review some certain variations of a posture, so we'll tap into that at some point throughout the practice. Otherwise, we'll kind of tie it all together. And just before we begin, I always like to kind of highlight some of the energetics and some of the kind of themes that are going on. And I feel like when we hit this moment of October, it's like October and then it's January. So like these 3 months tend to be really crazy. They tend to go by super fast. We've got all the holiday months that just cluster all together. And certainly it can be variable, especially if I've got some teachers out there. I know the school year is really picked up now and there's a lot of momentum with some different test windows. And I've certainly added my own craziness with trying to move in the middle of all of the other craziness in my life. So, you know, I think we have to remember that even though there's all of this going on out here, there's always all of this going on in our outer world. And we can't always control those things. Time is gonna pass and things are gonna ebb and flow. But what we can control is what's going on the inner world. When we close our eyes, when we tune inward and we tap into the spirit that connects all of us together and that connects us to the universe, all the things within our universe, the animals, the plants, the objects, the ground that we're sitting on, everything is, good cueing, the animals, everything is just connected. And so when we can tap into that inner spirit and feel the sensation of presence, then I think that it helps us to find that just home base. We all want to have that home base feeling, and we do all have that inside. And so usually what it takes is shifting from being either trapped in emotions of the past or trapped in our fears and expectations and anticipations about the future. If we can try and release some of that stuff and just bring it to this present moment, that is home base. And that's hopefully the home base that you want to continue to try and live out of, because the present moment is where everything is just so clear, and we can really be efficient in our actions, in our words, in how we're interacting with others, and really be really not be bothered by this. So you know, I'm part of the same kind of troubles like we all go through, but hopefully try and weave in the practice, and we're all part of a different practice, we're all part of a different journey, and I would love to just share the things that are helping me get through my journey, and hopefully this will help you get through your journey as well. So you know, if you've had a kind of a crazy Monday, a crazy return back to work or whatever, this is a great time for us to check in and just kind of reset and make sure that the rest of our week isn't just racing to get to the weekend, but actually enjoying each day for what it is going to bring to us. Because we don't want to just keep living for the future. We want to live here in the moment. So with that being said, we'll start in a whatever comfortable seated position is for you. It might be this, it might be with the legs out straight, it might be kneeling, you might be in a chair. So wherever you feel comfortable, let's just begin, and let's center ourselves by connecting with our breath. You can certainly close your eyes, and immediately closing our eyes helps to shut out the outside world, and we can almost feel like a reflective mirror going inward. So let's take a few cycles of breath. So whether you have a dog barking in the background or perhaps sounds from your neighborhood or your children, your spouses, the TV might be in the distance, who knows. We can get frustrated with those things, or we can choose to use them as vehicles to continue to tune inward and to focus on the sensation of our breath. Very nice. Let's go ahead and gently open up our eyes, and hopefully just allowing for a few cycles of breath, you can center that attention and awareness. So we're going to begin in a tabletop position. We're going to just do a couple cat-cows to warm up. I'm just going to turn my body to the side here and back up a little bit. So hands go directly underneath the shoulders. My knees are underneath the hips. And we're going to take some inhales and exhales with our movements. So we're going to drop the belly down, lift up through the head and neck, arch through the back, and take our inhale to this position. And then we're going to push into the floor, round through the back, arch through the spine, tuck the chin towards the chest, towards the exhale. And then use your breath. We're just going to go ahead and cycle through, inhaling and exhaling. Let's take 3 more full rounds. After that last exhale, we're just going to return back to a neutral spine. Very nice. I'm gonna take the hero's pose next because I had some questions on it, and I think it's a great way to warm up our feet and our ankles and our knees. So I'm gonna slide my body forward a little bit. And hero's pose is essentially sitting back on the heels. And okay, charming. Seriously, go lay down. You're being interruptive. So it's essentially sitting back on your heels with your arms just resting on your laps. There are a lot of other things that you can do with the arms, but let's talk about what the ankles and feet are doing, especially if this is really challenging for you, especially if you are a person that wears boots or high heels. This can be very challenging, and I'd like for my feet to be visible, so I'm gonna shuffle forward here. So first, let's go ahead and come up onto less of an even, and we're going to flip the toes underneath, and then just use the pressure of your hands to lean back into those toes. Charming, you're really in a terrible spot. Please come over here. Lay down. Lay down, please. Right here. I know you want to play. She just ate, so she's like hyper. Okay. So as if we can't sit back fully on the heels because it's really uncomfortable, then this might be a good starting place, because we're going to allow for those toes to back bend, which is going to help get some of that stretch into the arch. So this can feel really good on the arches of the feet, and probably not having all the weight shifted back is a nice alternative. If it is possible, then you can also walk the hands up and sitting back on the heels like this. This will certainly add more pressure on top of those feet. And if this is not doable for you, that's okay. You just stay in this position and just lean as far as it feels comfortable to get those toes bent backward. Conversely, we can put the insteps down. Certainly if sitting back all the way is just too much, then you can just start to, from a tabletop, to lean back into those insteps to get a little bit deeper. Now, if you wanted to be able to sit back, but you really can't tolerate it and you wanted to be on the insteps, then having a cushion to put underneath the legs. So I do have a foam roller here. A lot of my stuff is all packed up, but let's say this was a bigger cushion. I could use this to sit back on top of, so that my knees wouldn't be as an excessive bend, nor would my ankles have as much pressure on them. So this might be a nice alternative as well. This foam roller feels kind of intense and fantastic all in the same, because it's providing a fascial release to the back of my calves, which ultimately would help with some of those sensations too. So again, some other things to play around with. So again, we can sit back this way, flip all the toes back this way. And if you want a really good shin stretch, this may also be tolerable. You can sit like so and take your fingertips and lift your knees off, and that's going to help push your insteps a little bit deeper. So if you have a lot of tightness in the front of your shins, this can be a really nice stretch. It maybe not possible to hold it for a long time, but certainly just rocking up into this position, it's kind of an awkward area to stretch. So it's kind of a nice way to feel that sensation in the front of the shins. So I hope that that was helpful for Hero's Pose. Certainly if there are any further questions, or if that didn't quite answer the question for modifications, then please shout them out and put them on the comment section, and I'd be happy to go deeper. But let's go ahead and go back to shifting back into the ankles and feet, maybe into the balls of the feet. And this is a great transition into our downward facing dog. So we'll walk the hands out just a little bit further, lift up off the knees now that we're on the balls of the feet, and then push up into that downward facing dog. And let's go ahead and pedal out those ankles and feet so that we can loosen up even more. And this might be a good place to start loosening up the ankles and feet if the Hero's Pose is a little bit too challenging for now. Always putting cushions under your knees is a great alternative. So we're just pedaling out those legs, working through some of the tension of our day. Continue to, I'm looking up at the screen, but try and keep your head and neck in line with your arms. In fact, tucking the chin towards the chest is actually ideal so that we can really create a nice extension of the spine. Let's reinvent both heels down and lift up through the spine, dropping that chest a little bit closer towards our thighs, creating a nice downward dog stretch. Very nice. Let's go ahead and lower the knees back down. Now here are your options if you want to try and challenge yourself by sitting back on those heels, or if you want to stay on the balls of the feet, you certainly can here. Let's take some eagle arms tonight. Eagle arms are great because they help to open up between the shoulder blades quite a bit. So I'm going to start by bringing my arms up and over the head, and then I'm going to focus on, not now, Charming, I love you, but please, please, not right now. She's just so great. Okay, the right arm is going to come underneath the left arm. We're going to make a twist, and that may be as far as you can go, working towards getting the fingertips to touch the back of the shoulder blades. If you can go further, see if you can get the palms to touch the palms. And so when we create this connection, we really create some openness between the shoulder blades. And you can see that my hands aren't quite perfectly lined up, but I'm going to continue to work to get them lined up. So I'm going to try and make a fist by connecting my fingers together. And I have really tight shoulders, so this is very challenging. And I'm going to try and pull my fists together, flatten the palms again. I have the lovely camera in front of me as a reference, but if you didn't, you could certainly use a mirror. And you can see that my left shoulder is elevated far more than my right. So I'm actually going to try and even that out, which moves my arms off to the side, but we want to ideally have that in the midline. So me working my arms to the midline and dropping that left shoulder down allows me to get really good alignment and really good stretching on the back of those shoulders. While you're doing this, you want to really squeeze the palms and the forearms together. You're trying to temporarily cut off some blood flow and to stimulate the nervous tissues. So you really want to compress, compress, compress. And then final bonus here is I just have my arms resting on top of my chest, but if I just start to elevate the back of the triceps off of my chest, then I also create a downward pull of those scapulas. It really helps to wing and open them up a little bit more, certainly creating a deeper, deeper stretch. So see if you can float them even for just a moment. Just try not to float them and then lift up through the shoulders. You want to try and let those shoulders go back and down as you lift up through the triceps. Let's take a couple more cycles of breath. I know we've already been here for a little bit, so it probably already feels quite tight. Very nice. And then let's go ahead and just unbind the hands. We're going to slowly bring the arms back around. We're going to rise them all the way up. I'm sure you feel some very interesting things in your shoulders right now. Now we're going to take the left arm and go right into the other side, bringing it underneath the arm, either grabbing back behind the shoulder blades. This is totally a great place to start because shoulders are tight. And then we're going to bring the palms back together. I'm using my fists to help bring palms to palm and realigning in my midline. So now trying to get my eyeball. You can see my other right shoulder is now trying to elevate. That's going to be the tendency on this side. So I'm going to try and drop that arm down, but realign the arms to the midline so you can really feel some good, even pulling behind those shoulder blades. Squeeze the forearms together, compress the hands and the elbows. Knee walking here. And then we're going to take those triceps and slide them up and away from the chest, trying to take that final piece. Breathing nice and deep into the body. Anything that's tight in the back of our shoulder blades is usually due to having some sort of poor posture at work, or whatever activities that you do. Energetically speaking, the back of our chest is the past, so sometimes we're holding on to things from the past. Take another couple cycles of breath here. And then we're going to just release those arms. We're going to cross them back over our body and rise them all the way up towards the ceiling. And let's take them back down to heart center. Push those palms together into heart center so that we're not rounding through the shoulders, but staying nice and open through the chest. We're going to create that nice circuit through the palms. Feel a little stretch on the front of the shoulder blades begin. See if you can keep the openness of the chest, and we're going to just start to open the arms out into a goddess arm position. And so in this position, we're doing kind of the opposite now of what we were just doing in our eagle arms. We're opening up the chest. This posture will usually go a lot better after we compress and close off the chest, because we can help use some different feedback loops of the brain to inhibit some of the tension here in our chest. So now we're a little bit more compliant in this direction than we might have been if we started this way. So we can kind of stretch through the fingers. We're bringing the elbows back together, as well as trying to bring the palms a little bit more upright. You could elevate the arms to a 90-degree position, but try not to let it be at the expense of the shoulder blades. So if lifting them up feels comfortable, you can also come back here. This is not wrong, it's just a slightly different angle. Good. Let's inhale, lift up through your heart, lift up through the throat. As you exhale, let's take those arms back down, stretch them forward into a child's pose, dropping that forehead to the floor. Let's go ahead and start to walk the hands all the way back up so we can slide them up through the thighs. Very nice. Let's take, we're gonna go back through our downward facing dog so we can change positions again. So we're gonna flip those toes under, which probably would feel great if you were sitting the way that I was, to kind of counter pose some of that front of the shin and instep stretching. Float up off the knees, come back to your downward facing dog. Let's take our right leg, we're gonna bring it all the way, well, I've got blinds behind me, but we're gonna bring that leg all the way straight up and back, and we're gonna reach through that heel, trying to find a little bit more height. Notice that my leg isn't quite in line with my body, and that's because I'm still trying to warm up. So we want to still reach through the glute. You can flex or point the ankle, whatever feels right for you. Typically speaking, the heel jutting out is going to be a little bit more energetically sound, but you can certainly pick and choose. I am leading through my heel. We could all open up our hips and get the leg up a little higher, but that changes what part of the posture we're stretching. So see if you can reach that heel back just a little bit deeper and keeping that knee as straight as you can. And then draw the knee into the chest, step it in front of you, and we're just gonna slide the hands back. You can have the knees bent as much as you need, and just fold forward over that front leg, taking a nice little pyramid stretch. Let's take 2 more cycles of breath. And then we're gonna walk those hands, you can bend through the knees, walk the hands back forward, take that same right leg and jut it straight to the back. And see if you can get it up just a little bit higher this time than where you had left off. Let's take an inhale, just take it to your max. Exhale, lower the leg back down. Wiggle through the hips a little bit. Pause for a moment. And let's switch to the other side, lifting the left leg up, whichever leg was your opposite side. Reaching through that heel again, trying to flex the toes versus point, and trying to find that glute squeeze, trying to find the straightness in the knee, using your arms to push into the floor and try and get that extension. Even if your leg is here, that's fine. This is where your starting point is. Just reach towards that wall, and eventually that leg will lift up a little bit deeper. Let's take one more nice reach. Trying to extend that knee, extend the hip, and then draw the knee into the chest. Step it through, bending your knee as much as you need, sliding your hands back, and then folding forward. That's called a three-legged downward dog, by the way, to pyramid. Just let the whole back side of your body melt over the next few cycles of breath. Good, and then let's take those hands, and as you bend the knee, just walk the hands a little bit more forward. Take that left leg and reach it back. It should feel a lot more limber, a lot more warm and open at this point. Easier to get the knee straight and the hip a little bit straighter. Let's just take one more cycle of breath, taking it to your edge, and release. Well-deserved moment to get off those wrists, so we'll drop the knees down. This time take a wide child's pose and reach those arms forward. And then we'll start to slide the hands back up. You can allow for a nice, comfortable rise. And then I'm gonna shift my body around. What do we got for time here? We're getting there, but we can still have enough time to do a couple more things. So I'm gonna stick with this eagle theme, but we're gonna keep it on the floor tonight. So we're gonna do the same thing with our legs. And in order for you to see it a little bit better, I'm actually gonna put my head this direction so that you're kind of facing where my legs would be. So just trust me on that one. So I'm gonna be this way, lying back. I think I'm visible. Okay. So we're gonna bring both legs up, and we're gonna take the right leg, cross it over like you're, sitting in a chair. Now this may be as far as you can go, but perhaps you can get that toe to swivel around to the back side of that calf. And so we can just support this twisted position of our hips by holding our hands right above the shin. This is a great way to get some compression in the inner thighs. You're gonna get a pull on those outer thighs. Even if the legs are splayed like this, that's okay. And it might feel good if you grab your toes, if you can't twist them around, and you can just pull back at both feet towards your body. That feels really nice on the hips and pelvis. Otherwise, attempt to get them twisted. Hold the thigh together. And just hug that in towards your chest. You can keep squeezing the inner thighs together just like we did with our arms. And this is again great for the blood and the nervous system to help be stimulating. All right, after that third cycle of breath, let's go ahead and untwist. You can just take both knees into the chest for a brief moment. And then we'll take the left leg, we're gonna cross it over the top of the right. Now I tend to be a little tighter this direction, so I have to kind of work it a little bit more. We'll take those hands, clasp them around the front of that shin and pulling the knees a little bit closer. You're gonna feel this in a bunch of different places, and it could be a little different for everybody because it just depends on where your tight patterns are. A lot of times those outer hips and in the back of the thighs. And before I exit, I just want to plant a little seed of imagination. But see this foot that I've got here, my right one, not the one that's wrapped around the other, but this is the free floating foot. I want you to imagine that we're standing on this foot and that we also have eagle arms at the same time. That is the true full expression of eagle. But we're going to take it in pieces for now because we're on a more mellow mode here on Monday night, and we just want the benefits of these deep stretches at the moment. So let's go ahead and untwist. You can certainly take those knees back into your chest. And let's take a happy baby as a nice other rotator. So I can reach up and grab my big toes, or I can grab the outer edges of my feet. And you're gonna really take the knees around the outside of your rib cage. And just like if you were doing a row exercise, you're gonna row those legs towards your body. So you don't wanna let the shoulders round. You wanna try and squeeze the shoulder blades together. And then babies like to be rocked, so you might choose to rock your baby a little bit side to side, massaging that lower back against the floor. This feels great for the back of your thighs, your groin, certainly the lower back sacrum area. It's a fantastic posture. Also a fantastic way to kind of get closure and ending of your practice. Now you don't have to do this, but if you feel like you just want a little bit more, you can alternate extending one leg out straight and just experimenting with how the deeper hamstring stretch might feel. It may be possible to do both, but that's certainly up to you. You can open up the thighs a little bit deeper to get that inner thigh groin stretch. But this is gonna be a little different for everybody. So even if you're straightening it and the knees don't get straight, but you still feel a deeper stretch on the backside, that's fantastic. And then we'll just start to bring the feet in towards one another. We can slowly lower them back down. We can even do a knock-kneed position. So my feet are kind of out here to the side, and I'm just letting the legs roll in towards one another. Kind of a nice counter pose to some of the big hip openers. Now we're going back to just some closure, and I'm just gonna let my arms rest alongside my body for a nice, comfortable ending. Take several deep, long breaths in through the nose and out through the nose. At this point, if you'd like to unknock the knees together and make them just neutral, this is a great position for Shavasana. You can also straighten them out to the length of your mat or the floor, wherever you're laying on. The legs can be a little wider than your hips. Arms are just resting alongside your body. I do encourage tucking the shoulder blades underneath because that will help to keep the chest open and broad. And since I started some of the ending poses this way, I'll just stay this way. And hopefully you found a comfortable position to drift off into. Our short Monday night practices are sweet, and they are just enough to allow us to tap into the present moment and the energetics of our body. We all have varying things going on in the outside world, but it's what we can do to control our inside breath and the thoughts and the emotions that are running through the body. We can choose to be observers to those things rather than participators. So as you lay here in your final moments of your practice this evening, give yourself a moment of gratitude for taking some time out of your day to practice yoga and to practice mindfulness. If you'd like to add some stimulation to your mindfulness, you might take your hand and place a finger right above the space between your eyebrows and just place a little pressure into that spot. This is your third eye center. And just hold that pressure point down and feel a melting, soothing sensation go through the rest of the body. When you feel satisfied with that pressure, you can just release it back down to the mat or the floor. And just allow for this moment of silence and peace within yourself to be accessible, not just now, but at any point in your day or your week. This moment of presence is always available to us. We just have to clear some of the fog that makes it harder for us to access it through asana or your poses, through breathing, and through mindfulness. Well, I could stay in that meditative state for quite a bit longer. I hope that you do too, but I believe I've already run over by a few minutes because I got lost in that little space for a moment. Hi, Trip. So please feel free to leave comments, ask questions so that I can gear it towards whatever you are looking for. If not, I will just keep dishing out some of my favorite things to share with you all. Please feel free to stay in that meditative state for a little bit longer if this feels just so good. And I hope that this has been helpful, and I will certainly look forward to leading you again in future weeks. So thank you again. Namaste.